So, I mean, it's a long time ago now, it seems like, right? Because it's hard to remember right before March break.
Yeah. I actually forget what the desks used to look like before it happened.
You know what I remember?
What?
Trying to figure out whether we should go to Jamaica.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was going to be like your guys' chance to actually see where I was born. And at the time that we would have been in the air on the way to Jamaica, Jamaica declared a state of emergency.
Do you remember what you were doing when you found out that we were going into a lockdown? What do you miss the most? What do you really want to do when this is finally over?
Definitely going out to eat at a restaurant.
I can't wait to be at a Toronto Raptors game again.
Hugging my whole family as soon as I can.
I am Maydianne Andrade, and from the University of Toronto, this is the new normal.
The last thing I remember doing is meeting with my co-residents at one of their homes. We talked about how different the world felt. We didn't realize we wouldn't be allowed to gather the next week. It's the last time I remember hugging anyone.
A marathon, not a sprint. The meaning of that saying is so much clearer now than it was a year ago. Do you remember what you were doing when you heard about the lockdown? I really wanted to check in and ask that question.
The last normal thing I remember doing, and it just so happened to have been a U of T event, I was a panelist there. So it was a cool time to actually see people and talk to people in real life, because I got to see people smile. I got to see people laugh. I got to be less than 6 feet, beside somebody. It was also a weird time because we were just starting those like weird handshakes where you shake your hands with your foot.
I still vividly remember that I was sitting in Burwash Dining Hall in Victoria College. My friends were coming in and out at different times through the day. That was the last time I saw a lot of them.
The last thing I remember doing before lockdown was just walking back from my Monk 1 class with my friends. We talked about class, the pandemic, and then just got lunch together.
The last thing I remember doing right before lockdown has to be working out with the rowing team outside of Goldring.
Studying in Robarts, and I was streaming the basketball game, and suddenly we got a notification saying one of the players had caught COVID.
The last normal thing that I remember doing is seamlessly riding public transport without constantly worrying about the fragility of life.
The last thing I remember doing before the start of the pandemic last year was being in a grocery store in Quebec. We were there for March break for our son with a couple other family friends. And I remember going to the grocery store knowing that I had to stock up on things, not knowing what I was going to have to stock up on, and just buying random things and shoving them in the car before making our drive home. That was pretty crazy and pretty nerve-wracking.
On Friday, March 13th of 2020, I was working in the emergency department, and we were overflowing with people, mostly travelers, returning and needing or wanting to get tested for COVID. So I recruited some of my residents to come and help with the swabbing and the overflow, which then led to subsequently the development of a COVID assessment center at Mount Sinai, which has continued to run over the past year.
As the pandemic came upon us, I clearly remember the phone calls, the emails, the text messages, the terrible distress that the leaders had as we came to a decision that we would pull all health professional undergraduate learners from the clinical environment and disrupt their education, and not know for how long.
The last thing I remember doing before lockdown last year was attending a committee meeting on the UTM campus, learning in the course of that meeting that the campus would be shut down along with the rest of the university in reflection of the pandemic. I remember that evening I would be teaching a course with 150 students and deciding on the spot that that lecture would be canceled even though the closure of the university did not take effect till Monday. I remember going to my office to find supplies, posting an announcement to my undergraduate colleagues, driving home, stopping at Costco, getting whatever supplies I could get at the time, and just really wanting to be home, to be with my wife, and to figure out exactly what our next steps would be and what was happening in the world.
The last thing I remember before lockdown was attending a seminar on the St. George campus in the Department of English. And I remember sitting in the 6th floor seminar room of the Jackman Humanities Building, surrounded by colleagues and graduate students, hearing this wonderful lecture. I remember hugging my colleagues goodnight. I remember taking the subway, which I haven't done in a year, back home. And that all felt so normal.
And so the intertwining of hope and longing, of acknowledging change and welcoming a more hopeful future, all of those things together create the texture of our days. And the closer we get to a vaccine that everyone has access to, the closer we get to what we think might be more like before times, the harder it is to wait.
The thing I am most looking forward to post-lockdown is definitely going out to eat at a restaurant. I have not gone out to eat since before the pandemic started.
There's so many things that I'm looking forward to doing. Looking forward to obviously hanging out with my family, my parents, my sister and her family, and so forth. Second thing is I can't wait to be at a Toronto Raptors game again in the Scotiabank Arena and to be in that live audience and just going crazy.
I really want to go see some music. I'd like to go to a concert.
I can't wait to see everybody and talk to people again and, just jam out. Like, I want to party.
The thing I'm really looking forward to after all this is over is meeting my colleagues, hugging my friends and family without thinking that it is a risky business, and also going for a draft beer because this is what we Czechs like to do.
The thing that I'm looking most forward to post-pandemic is hanging out with my friends and going out and getting food together.
Going out to eat with all my friends.
I just want to be able to go out with all of my friends. I want to have my first legal drink in a bar.
Post-pandemic, I'm most looking forward to just being able to see and hug my grandparents, family, and close friends again.
I think the thing that I'm looking most forward to once this lockdown lifts is getting to spend time with the friends and family that I've only been able to see through digital platforms.
The thing I'm most looking forward to is going back home to Alberta and hugging my whole family as soon as I can.
What I'm most looking forward to as we begin to reopen is being able to do home visits to elders without having to wear a mask. I mean, that's probably a while away yet. So it feels so lovely to fantasize a time and place where, I can connect with someone in person without wearing a mask. Yeah. Oh, as I say it, I feel delight at imagining that. It's something I can look forward to.
The vaccines mean we can fix our gaze on the horizon and start thinking about the post-COVID future. What do we want it to be? We've shown that we can change remarkably quickly. Let's make sure the changes are for the better. Special thanks to all the students, faculty, and alumni who shared their moments with us for this episode of The New Normal. They are
Katie Larson,
Zoe Yonkufaiz,
Nicole In,
Lily Mason,
Rachel In,
Tatar Agrawal,
Dr. Erin Bearss,
Abhay Singh Sachal,
Chase McMurran,
Salman Asit Khan,
Axel Vilmil,
Ishita Chakrabarti,
Joseph Wong,
Patricia Houston,
Jessica Fields,
Julius Hogg,
Lenka Sentenska,
Akwasi Owusu-Bempah,
and Glenn Mason.